Massive spoilers ahead for Metaphor ReFantazio. Play the game if you haven't, it's pretty good.
Make us who we are.
There was a plot in his life. One I wish I'd rooted out sooner.
You're no ray of hope.
You gave up on your hopes, but I will not.
Now let's see what manner of story you'll weave.
Let's do it. You'll be a hero. Trust me.
Atlas cooked here. I originally did not like Atlas games. I played Persona 5 on a whim, and I didn't like it. Couldn't figure out why, though. And I gave it another try a few months later, and the result was the same. Now, this is back in 2018. Fast forward to 2023, and I was watching a podcast called Sacred Symbol, and they have a What Are We Playing segment. And I heard that Persona 4 Golden would be ported for $20 on modern consoles. And something about it clicked instantly. And I wondered, should I give Persona 5 Royal another try? I sat and I wondered if I should, but what tipped the scale was a video by this guy. And he was talking about Persona 5 Royal, and there was one word that made everything click. Vibes.
In the near future, there is no mistake that ruin awaits you. Do you have the resolve to challenge the distortion of the world?
I don't think it's wrong to bring light to evils which can't be judged by law.
We can change people's hearts. We might be able to do more than just getting back at society.
I will not lose heart again. Ever.
It all made sense now. I had to let the vibes of the game take me through. And I put even more hours into Persona 5 Royal than I did Persona 4 Golden. At this point, I've realized that Persona 4 and Persona 5 have their own themes. But the vibe of the game is intertwined with the themes of itself. I'll use Persona 5 as an example. It has a very jazzy vibe around everything. And to summon your persona is to remove your mask and essentially show your true self. But the true self is always flowing in different ways, much like a jazz score. Growth and fluidity are intertwined as your true self is discovered, and it is constantly changing over time. And if the theme of summoning your persona is removing your mask, and the vibe of the game is jazz, then how they intertwine is how the presentation of the game is represented. Now, for context, I have only played Persona 3 Reload to Persona 5 Royal. I have not played Shin Megami Tensei.
Come on! You know what you should do? No, God!
Or Armored Core. And both the new iterations do interest me, but for the moment, Metaphor ReFantazio had just launched, and I am giddy as a kid on Christmas. I downloaded the demo, and it took all of 5 minutes to know that this will be my new obsession for a while. Inside the continent of Uchronia, you play as unnamed protagonist, which I aptly named Aiko because I didn't know Will was his name. I made the character during the demo, and his name wasn't out yet. And I named him Aiko because he looks like a mix of Makoto and Aigis from Persona 3. For those that say that's a girl's name, I gotta be honest with you. I gotta be real honest. He's losing some of these femboy allegations. Now, the start is pretty standard, where you run through and get your persona archetypes, and you rip out your heart. You scream into it like a microphone.
Behold, my voice rises from the depths of my heart.
Oh, none of that pussy baby, pull out a gun, shoot yourself. You have to scream your ambitions, with every character being faced with their anxieties and in that moment needing to overcome it. And when we get back to the Grand Triad with Stroll and Grius, it's in preparation for the king's funeral with the goal to kill Luis. Now, what I find interesting about specifically the walk to the funeral is how loud the silence is. There is no music. You walk out from Sunshade Row and you see nothing but broken people, borderline dying on the streets, and this is pretty much the only time that there is no music. The despair of the world is only overshadowed as we play because Gallica uses her magic to play music in your head. And on that note, Gallica, favorite mascot character, although I gotta be honest with you, doesn't have a lot of competition. Morgana, he's not on the list. He is so far removed. He has a
Joker, my wife
negative
left me and
spot.
my family is going
He's
to
always
starve.
acting.
All I need is Sojiro's credit card number and the 3 wacky numbers on the back.
We're trying to kill God. And then my student counselor. Then we're dating Makoto. My point is, we don't have time for... Now, one of the things that I notice is the graphics are stylized, and this is not surprising given that this is how most of the new gen Persona games look, and there are some obvious inspirations from Persona in this game. I mean, it was touted as from the makers of Persona 3, 4, and 5, so there are going to be some obvious parallels, although I do not mean that as a detraction from what the game is. There's some what I will be calling Atlasisms, and one of them has to do with the stylization. Now, there are times where we get the Persona 3 club vibe with no faces, the uncanny valley feeling where it's just jarring. And this isn't a jab at the art itself. The art and concept it was derived from are gorgeous. This is Shigenori Sojima, and he has been doing character design for Atlas since Persona 3. And there are tribes in this game, several of them, 8 to be specific, and that means there not only has to be different designs for each tribe, this also means there has to be unique designs for any mixed race characters like Maria. She's half Ashika, she's half rogue, and she only has one set of wings versus Neurus, who is seen with 2 sets of wings because he's full Ashika. When we're talking about the graphics and design, I'm gonna bring in a college dropout to give you a little bit of art history. It's me. Obviously, I didn't graduate college. Look at what I'm doing here. Now, we're gonna talk about Bosch. Bosch was a painter around the late 1400s, early 1500s, and he specialized in oil paintings. Now, the one that I want to talk about today that gives a lot of inspiration to the human designs is the Garden of Earthly Delights, a triptych oil painting on oak wood from the early 1500s that was supposed to be a bit of a metaphor for the religious establishment. It was kind of a social commentary piece on it. And on one side over here, we have Eden. We have Earth that, you know, they're doing stuff. And we have Hell, and we can see a few familiar faces, and they're also doing a lot of stuff. And we can see that there is a lot of direct inspiration from Hell over here. Now, what I think is very interesting about this is they didn't just get inspiration from Hell for their human designs that they have in the game. They also pulled a lot of theme inspiration. If we look at Earth and Hell, we see a transition into earthly pleasures turning into this kind of self-imposed hellscape over here. And while Metaphor isn't that mature, it has its own set of themes that are a little more tactful. When it deals with the themes of overwhelming fear and anxiety, it uses the same through line to show that if you cannot overcome the overwhelming fear and anxiety, you will make a hellscape for yourself, kind of like... This is its own standalone IP. And another thing is that they removed romance options. I was on media blackout with this game and had no clue. The tip-off was only having 8 ranks for your followers, which makes upgrading everyone more manageable. But famously, rank 9 and 10 were romance options in Persona. And unless you had a guide, you had to pick and choose what to do. Do you pick between upgrading your social links? Do you raise your stats? Did you have the right persona equipped when you talk to this person? Oh shit, it's the wrong day and I can't talk to this one character. None of that's in here. I unlocked all, and I mean all, of the royal archetypes and maxed out follower ranks and virtues. On top of that, I had 7 days extra. And these are substantial improvements, but no romance options, I hear you say. And I have to say, some of you guys are a little too vocal about it. Are you proud that you romanced Futaba? She's 15.
Consuming?
She's also 15. Incognito mode is not going to save you from the allegations. Although, when it comes to the main cast, there are no bad options. All the characters are complex in their own right. I mean, for example, Stroll comes up with a lot of outlandish ideas that he would have shied away from originally. The whole plot to assassinate Luis had Stroll vehemently against it when it was brought up by Grius, but by the time we get midway through the game, he's suggesting we catapult a spear in an opera house with a crowd full of people. And at this point, his increasingly out-of-pocket ideas was the reason Heismei is in the party. Because Heismei originally was accused of kidnapping children, and Stroll said, well, wait a minute. So at this point, we don't question Stroll. We just let him cook. We tell to be quiet. We say, you son of a bitch, I'm in. And that's good to see. That's really good to see. It's so easy to mess up a character by doing it so haphazardly. And to me, what separates good execution from bad execution is growth and progression within the bounds of the character that is already established. Another good example of this is Del and Basilio. Basilio joins your party after Del dies, but you see a slow, gradual change before Basilio ever comes over. There's a hesitation if Luis is worth staying with, if his way of equality is correct. It wasn't just the fact that Del died, it was paired with this mound of doubts from the Virga Islands. And every character that has a prominent part in the overarching story goes through this challenge of ideals. Well, it's easy to make a good versus evil story. Most of the characters stay conflicted the entire time. Going back to Stroll, by the end of the game, he's admitting to Luis that he's not even wrong. Yufa comes in and says how she understands what it's like to not believe in yourself or others after she was supposed to be nothing more than a sacrifice her whole life. And the list just keeps going on and on. And all of them have their own individualistic reasons, although, as the name suggests, they are directly referenced from Jungian psychology. Essentially, they are all part of a collective as well. Hulkenberg, being a knight, while also having a knight's archetype, is a great example. Her ideals reflect her being a protector, which over time turns into her having a royal knight archetype. And to achieve this goal, you have to have her run through a gauntlet of different archetypes, from more physical archetypes to magical, light, dark, etc. She has to be a protector of everything for the king. An unbreakable shield, or Juna, who starts with the masked dancer archetype. And looking at the collective line, she has this archetype because she is a Nydia, a tribe that is seen as an ever-changing and manipulative group of people, more specifically stemming from the fact that their whole appearance is a lie. Their true form is that of a child, but they use magic to appear as adults, and this plays directly into Juna as well. Her archetype is the masked dancer. Her abilities are constantly changing. She can equip masks to copy other archetypes, although to get to her royal archetype, she needs to be proficient in the Faker archetype. And it goes into her arc of self-acceptance as she knows that she feeds into her own stereotype of lying, but on the other end of it, she is no longer ashamed of what she is. She is a jack of many trades, and this culminates in her royal archetype that, while still using masks, uses them in a way that is personalized to Juna. For example, instead of ripping Maria's healer archetype, Juna has the Mercy mask, which uses healing, and it illustrates that she has a multifaceted personality instead of outright lying and pretending to be someone else. This acceptance of self was shown in Juna, but every character's royal evolution goes something like this. This game has several references to other things, metaphors, if you will. And there are several direct ones, like Juna's second archetype being called Persona Master, and Yufa's second archetype being called Demon Summoner, both referencing Persona and Shin Megami Tensei respectively, but there is so much in this game that it went right over my head. There are even references to things that are obscure in normal life, like the fact a lot of the language is based off of Esperanto, a language that I thought was fake until a week ago. And like I said earlier, when it comes to Atlus published games, I have only played 3. And upon doing research for this video, I was blown away by one specific callback. It was a callback that, without Metaphor, I would have no idea this game existed. I was watching a video that will be linked in the description, and it was talking about a title called Etrian Odyssey.
緑に覆われた大地の伝説。発見された迷宮の入り口。
I just died to a basic bitch. Wow, I'm getting through the 4th stratum so fast. No hiccups at all.
Dragon Grace Shinjuku has exactly the same map as Lost Shinjuku from Etrian Odyssey, and not only that, but Dragon Grace Shinjuku theme is a modernized theme of Etrian Odyssey. And I have to be honest with how long the game is. There are probably several things that I have missed, but the point of this isn't that I'm getting lost in the sauce to references I don't grasp, but the point of this is that the game can draft such an obscure love letter. The last Etrian Odyssey game was released in 2018 for the 3DS. I don't even remember the 3DS, let alone any games that were on it. I mean, we have Switches now, and if you have a few $100, you have a Steam Deck. I mean, the reference wasn't from the latest game either, it was from the first game released in 2007. And that's great, that's really great. I mean, this is a reference that 7 people are gonna understand, but if you do understand it, it would hit home. Now the dungeon designs are home runs. For example, all the towers are the same and all the crypts are, well, crypts. So in the late game, when you have to run through the optional dragon trials, you go through 3 towers, and then you revisit the dragon temple in the same area you were before, and it was kind of a shame that they were so similar. A lot of dungeons are unique. If we look at Tyrant Star, for example, it is wholly different when compared to Tower number 2. The deep anxiety-inducing reds of the unnatural landscape you're standing on are very surreal to see. And the tower was like, yeah, cool.
Another 6 flights of stairs I need to climb.
Speaking about Tyrant Star, I just finished Fate Stay Night, and I finally see the dragon that everyone was talking about.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
I'm not saying that the CGI in the anime cutscene was that bad, but Reddit place has a subreddit for everything, including Metaphor. And I thought it would be interesting to go through a few of the posts I saved while I was going through this video and sharing them with you all. To start off, just played through 9/11. They hit the second brother. Too soon. And next we have a discussion piece. Leon Stroll is taking over my life. I haven't even played the full game, only the demo, but I would die for Stroll. He's the most perfect man in all of gaming, and I was already deeply in love with him from the moment he appeared on screen. He's strong, kind, brave, he cares about others, and he's can cook. I agree so far. Why haven't I found any man in real life as amazing as this? Okay. I love him so much. I'm planning our wedding. If anything happens to him, I will die. He's so incredibly gorgeous and amazing. I imagine that if you licked him, he would taste like a steamed dumpling. Boy, I sure hope no one else in this community has a licking fetish.
I know. Very tasty.
I need to marry this man and bear his children. He's the only one I would ever cook for. I would be the greatest housewife just for him. Man, I love Stroll. Good luck with that. I did it. I fixed him. POV. The morning after I peg Luis. Now, I have to say, this is justifiable simping. You are simping for the greater society. So I approve of this. If we can skirt through most of the events that Luis caused, I don't see a problem with this. It's simping for the people. Unlike that last post, we have Goth, Yufa. This is all purely hypothetical since it is fan art, not canon. But if they just had a choker accessory in the game for Yufa, I would have immediately handed over the crown and the keys of the kingdom. Again, fan art. So this is purely hypothetical, but I would have committed mass genocide if this happened in the game. There is no more Sanctism. There is no more Sanctism supporters. We are now a purely pagan religion. Everyone is wearing helmets now. Got some nice Luis fan art here in ink. Very nice to see. And we have a Yufa cosplay. Crocheted. On that note, the braids included. Very, very nice to see. And look, I know I said earlier, since this is all fan art, it's not canon. This is canon. This is 100% canon. This just happened before the events of the game, and you can't prove to me otherwise, okay? This is also canon. Although I do have to say, I don't think Juna consented to this. I think one of them just accidentally walked in on her in her child form. She got a little too comfortable around everyone, and before she could realize her mistake, they just grabbed her, and she's too flustered to fight back now. Oh, finally, some tasteful Gallica fan art. Got a comic here. Would you love me forever? No, I would love you 5 ever. And then Will rips out his heart. Look, I'm just saying here. He has been asleep for God knows how long, and has never dealt with rejection as deep as this. They shook hands, man. It was a very deep emotional moment. He thought that it was over. I don't blame him. This is a justifiable crash out. In fact, if I was in the same circumstance, I'm there with him. The last one here from this disproportionately amount of Yufa posts. How do I get a shy, multi-eyed, brown, blonde, Welsh girlfriend? Now, I was going to give some advice, but I found a comment here that I feel pretty much sums up what I would have said. Step 1, move to Wales. Step 2, talk to Welsh women. Step 3, become good friends with a Welsh woman. Step 4, do the traditional sacrifice of a young goat to prove your undying bond. Now, I agree with most of the things that last comment said, but there is one issue here. When you say multi-eyed, I assume you mean more than 1 or 2 eyes, and that's going to be a bit of an issue, so we need to go with the path of most resistance. And thankfully, there's a comment here that will lead us down that way. Simple. Discover magic, cause World War III with said magic, and then after hundreds of years, swap places with a blue/white hair protagonist and let the girl hold your hand. I don't see how it's so hard. And I do think that'll work, but you do have to ask yourself of the moral implication that comes with this. No, not that you just killed a bunch of people for one woman that may or may not exist deep into the future, causing the genocide of billions of people. That's not important. The important part is assuming you live for hundreds of years, you're 800, 900 years old, and you're going after a woman that's 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever it may be. On a pure relative scale, you are now a pedophile. And you have to live with that. But I'm dead, so I can't judge you. Say hi.
Father, there are no cat girls in this game. 1 out of 10.
You speak facts, my boy. There's so many interesting things about this game, metaphors included, and many things that I haven't talked about, such as the music that I've been interlacing throughout this video. But one of the most interesting things I find about this game is fear and anxiety are such nuanced topics to tackle, and it tackles it very well. Most of the game, the main character has this book that should illustrate what a perfect utopia would look like. Everyone is treated fairly and just, with no discrimination of power, status, or class. And I would like to think that a worse game would say, congrats, you solved racism, and they live happily ever after. And that isn't the case here at all. There is never a point where there is a perfect solution. The protagonist's journey is the most fantastical thing about the world. He's fighting the odds for a maybe, odds that have already shown that humanity is the reason that humanity fell to begin with. Magla is introduced as a representation of the emotions of the world, with all the humans being overtaken by Magla itself. But then the question comes, how is there any living thing? If the world was destroyed by a total loss of oneself, there are some that have survived. And that is how races are made in this world. They survived the last time this happened, with humans being the ones that did not. And this is what makes Luis an interesting anti-hero. He's not a black and white villain, as I didn't necessarily completely disagree with him in the end. Near the end of the game is shown that the Royal Scepter is a siphon for the raw Magla from the people. His plan was to unleash it, and whoever can overcome crippling fear and anxiety will be fine. Whoever doesn't becomes what this world knows as humans. And the protagonist differs in this way because he acknowledges the state of the world is an issue but should be tackled with the current system in place. He acts as a uniter, which is interesting in a number of ways. On one hand, since both characters are Elden, they are most removed from every other race. Not only because they have the least amount of Magla exposure, which gives them their normal human appearance, they're also part of a tribe that is shunned from all politics of any sort. The two options then go that you learn and understand, you become a bridge for everyone. Since you have no bias towards any specific tribe, they all equally dislike you. And on the other hand, you can burn all prejudice to the ground because you have no attachment to them as individuals. Both are going towards equality, one with destruction and one with reconstruction. Both believe that they can be a bridge to a better world, and I can't exactly call Luis a villain, more a victim of his own pragmatic delusions. And so by the end, we beat Luis, become king, and, well, that's really it. We see a short glimpse into the future where things are better but not perfect, and there are still people who wanted Luis to win and some that are against an Elda being king, either through sanctism or otherwise. And also we see at the end that we're in the gauntlet runner with everyone. Color is returning to the barren wasteland that we once roamed, and Maria comes up with wide eyes to see the open world. And it's a nice little bow at the end because it shows that just because we are king, everything isn't fixed. The point of this new adventure is to go places and see the problems of other people firsthand. With that, he's constructing a bridge of empathy. And unless there's a sequel, we won't know if that answer is the correct one. We don't know if they fail. All we know is they tried for something better.